know there's a lot of question marks in the market overall, and that kind of brings me to my next question. So Forrest, we see Bitcoin has been relatively, ever since we made the big moves downward, Bitcoin's been pretty boring. And in the past, boring has been, for me, the time to load up. What are your current thoughts on the market as a whole? We haven't had you on, so I want to kind of hear what your thoughts are. I know for me, I'll just tell you macro, I still think we have another leg down, but only because macroeconomics, the worldwide problems that I see us having, tells me that we're going to get some sort of a wild announcement or something to happen at some sort. That's the only thing that I have. Are the charts telling you anything different, and or what are your current thoughts on the market?
Yeah, so there's so many variables at play right now, and a lot of those variables have high degrees of uncertainty. Like we cannot nobody knows 100% certain what the deal is going to be with Russia and Ukraine. Nobody knows 100% certain what's going to happen with China and Taiwan. If you really dive into those individual situations, sure, you could educate yourself and assign probabilities, but there's so much there's black swan potential here. There's black swan potential there. There's my opinion is that there's black swan potential in the oil market. We've got an administration that has not supported fossil fuels. We've been draining the strategic petroleum reserve. We're seeing oil prices start to pick back up next year. I don't know what's going to happen with oil prices, but what I do know is it's going to be really, really freaking hard for the Fed to fight inflation if oil is at $180+ per barrel. And I know that's a scary number, but that's probably not that out of the question, knowing what you guys are doing with the Danger Close Alpha and the prep. You guys are preparing for that kind of event. And of course, we can be, worried about doom and gloom. And at the same time, maybe nothing goes wrong. So you kind of have to play both scenarios out. I'm hedged into oil. But in terms of the overall market, I'd say I'm 60-40 right now. I'm 60-40 bullish, bearish for the next 3 to 6 months. Okay. And that has mostly to do with the seasonality and the cyclicality of the market. There's a couple things. Post-midterm elections, particularly in elections where we see power shift to split control. Where you have, maybe a Democratic administration president, and then, Republicans in control of the House and Senate. On average, post midterm election, going all the way back in the Nasdaq or in the Dow Jones to the year 1900, going all the way back into the S&P 500 to like the 1930s or 40s, through wars, through recessions, through Cuban Missile Crisis, all of these 9/11, all these terrible, terrifying events. Despite all of that, midterm elections come around, and on average in the 6 months following a midterm election, you see the S&P 500 pump 15%. Yeah, goes up, because a lot of times you have that uncertainty going into a midterm election. Well, midterm elections are tomorrow. So from a cyclical nature, like normally the worst performing year of a presidential election cycle and the worst performing months of a presidential election cycle are from January to the midterm election of the midterm election year. So we've just gone through the absolute worst part of the cycle. And now, yes, things look disgustingly ugly in terms of macro, but historically, we would still expect to build in about 15% upside over the next 6 months. So because of that, I'm leaning 60-40 bullish. I do think that we could get some relief, but the scary part is that 40% bearish is, probably pretty big capitulation to the downside if something happens.